right now, just that instant. There you go. How you doing? All right. So, hey everybody. So my office has been torn apart, so I'm in our playroom here, like our kids' TV room. So kind of cool. Show you around a little bit. Let me do a quick little tour for you. It's kind of neat. So we have like a take the thing off. So you can see my collection of jerseys, and it goes around.
Very nice.
And yeah, and then across the wall over there, there's TV over there. And
I saw John Brophy's jersey there, the
Long
Island Ducks.
Pretty good old ones, yeah. There's pretty good old ones. Going over that way. So yeah, this is our right now. All right, let's see.
Just make sure that you tell me if my sound starts to get bad, because I can't see the chat or text.
Yeah,
no, you're fine.
Background noise is not too bad.
Okay.
I like the dog.
I don't know who the dogs are behind you, but that's okay.
Yeah, that's all right.
Who let the dogs out?
Who let the dogs out? All right. Before we start, we wanted to go a little bit. Russ wanted to talk a little bit about Roy Halladay. Of course, we touched a lot of people who watch this show, either in Philadelphia or Toronto. Go ahead, Russ.
Yeah, just as a baseball fan, I mean, he was a great player to watch. I mean, he tremendous with the Blue Jays. Won 2 Cy Youngs, one with the Blue Jays, one with the Phillies. Threw a no-hitter, threw a perfect game, threw a no-hitter in the playoffs, which is crazy. He had a real good, dominant, 7-8 years. Won 203 games, has a really high winning percentage. It's about 66%, something like that. And nobody wins 300 games anymore. So I think he's a Hall of Famer. It's terrible what happened to him. The guy's only 40. He's got family. When I was a kid and Roberto Clemente died suddenly, he wasn't retired like Roy was. Like Halladay was retired for a few years.
Yeah.
They rushed the 5-year waiting period and let him get in the Hall of Fame right away. I think they should do the same thing for Halladay. It would make sense. So we'll see if Major League Baseball reacts to it or not. But yesterday was just a really lousy day because of that.
Yeah, I mean,
good, Mike.
I saw Roy Halladay pitch a bunch of times because it was always convenient for me to come up to see the Yankees play the Blue Jays. And I think in maybe the 10 or 11 times I saw Halladay pitch against the Yankees, he won, I think, 10 of them, and he lost once. I mean, he was always – I mean, Derek Jeter basically said that he was the toughest guy that they sometimes sat Jeter against Halladay because, the way he threw everybody's swing off. So,
yeah.
And you mentioned Clemente, but obviously Clemente's a Hall of Famer, and I think Halladay should be a Hall of Famer. But this just brings back memories. Remember back, I think it was 2007, the Corey Lytle, former Philly and a former Yankee, and he was getting excoriated by the talk shows in New York because he pitched really badly in the playoffs, and then 2 days later he and an instructor crashed into a building into Midtown Manhattan, and the radio hosts were basically eating crow because I mean they were talking about a guy who died almost at the same time, so it was pretty sad. But I mean he was really sort of worshipped in Toronto for being probably the best, either him or Dave Stieb, the best pitcher in Blue Jays history, and it's really sad. 40 years old.
Everybody in Philly that I mean, I've never met Roy, but talked to a lot of people here who covered him. A lot of reporters here who covered him, and it's very rare that you hear players, especially baseball players, who get the kind of praise that Halladay gets. It's nothing against baseball players, but just the fact that I was constantly being told that this guy just has so much class. He's such a team player, even though he's so great. He doesn't seem to know he's great. He's not one of those guys who acts like he knows he's great. Pitch, working every single inning. A really interesting thing, the impact he had. So she's a woman who just cleans our house, a Jamaican woman who's really comes around once a week and helps clean out the house. And I know she's a big Phillies fan. So yesterday when this happened, I told her, I said, "Did you see what just happened?" And she just broke down. She's like, she's just a woman who watches Phillies games, for fun, and you just learned the sport a few years ago. And Roy Halladay just was, what a nice guy. She said, what a great person, that kind of thing. So yeah, it just had an impact here.
This was how big it was in Toronto. Both sports talk radio stations, when the news was confirmed, they both carried the press conference from the St. Petersburg County. I think it was Pasco County, from their police confirming that Halladay had passed away, and then the rest of the show, from 4 p.m. to 7 p.m. was like everybody from Pat Gillick to former GMs, former players, all giving their remembrances on both channels. That's how big the deal was in Toronto.
Yeah. So anyway, we're going to move on to hockey, but very sad, and I know it affects a lot of people out there. So prayers with everybody involved, for sure. All right, ready? Here we go. Hello, Hockey World. It's Wednesday, November 8th, 2017. I'm
Michael Agello on location.
I'm Russ Cohn from Sportsology with Perla, who's bugging me.
And I'm Eklund from the kids game room. You're watching the HockeyBuzzcast on HockeyBuzz.com. This podcast comes every Monday through Friday at this time, usually with those guys, sometimes with me lately. You guys have done a great job of covering in. And anyway, let's move on to some hockey stuff we have going on here today, because we had a lot of games last night we can talk about. And also the fact that Jaromir Jagr has passed Gordie Howe, for second on the NHL all-time games played list, with 1,925. So he's second. Yeah. So Messier's got the most, so he's going to move into second. Messier's at 1,992. I didn't even realize Mark Messier hadn't played the most games in the NHL. Yeah. It's interesting. But he didn't pass Gordie Howe's record too long ago, which is pretty interesting. So Gordie Howe and Jagr almost scored at the same pace when you think about it. I think he just passed Gordie Howe's scoring record last year, I want to say.
Sounds about right.
I think it was pretty close where he passed, into second place all time behind Gretzky. Yep. Or just past, no, behind, I'm sorry, other people have passed Gordie Howe too, but he passed Gordie Howe.
Yeah, it wasn't second behind Gretzky, but he's passed Gordie.
Right. Which is something to say for Jagr, and something to kind of put Gordie Howe into perspective, for me, as I was thinking about, here's a guy who, I think of Jagr as a scorer. Like, Jagr puts up points, he has always put up points. So part of me as a kid, I don't know why, maybe I don't know if anyone else feels this way, but when Gretzky was chasing Gordie Howe's record, I was thinking Gordie Howe was like 50 years old, and I was thinking this guy's played forever, and he's so, he was actually still playing. Or just had played a little brief period of time there with Hartford. And I always thought Gordie Howe was a great scorer, but played so many games, he couldn't have been as great a scorer as, as everybody thought he was. But here, when you put that Jagr and Howe basically played the same amount of games, basically scored the same amount of points. And I think of Jagr as a big time scorer. So it's interesting. I don't know why that just kind of hit me.
Here's the thing, though. Not to take it away from Jagr, because I certainly like him and respect him. But Gordie Howe, the seasons were a lot shorter for a big part of his career. Yeah, that's true. That's true, too. Seasons were shorter, but the games played are still the same, No, yeah, but the thing is, it's years when games.
That's true. When you get old, I see what you're saying, yeah.
Yes.
Yeah, I see. That does make sense.
And the thing that makes Howe's achievement so special is I'm pretty sure, Russ, that his records are only NHL, not encompassing what he did with Houston and the WHA. So
yeah, I'm pretty sure you're right.
Yeah, they don't count those years, and he was in the
right.
WHA for what, 4 or 5 years? So
about 4 years, I think.
Yeah, so I think that makes. What Jagr's done is unbelievable. He's still an effective player at 45 years old. Chris Chelios into his late 40s was the same. Gordie Howe played until 50 years old, but Russ is right. They're playing, original six for the first 17, 18 years of his career, and the season was significantly shorter than it was now. So, you can't really judge or can't really match up these achievements. No. They're all great.
Yeah. No, that's for sure. It is. I don't know why. To me, anything I can put Gordie Howe into perspective, because I really wish I had seen him play when he was in his prime. That's to try to get I know Kevin Allen has often said that Gordie Howe is basically the same size as Peter Forsberg. Basically height and weight wise.
A hell of a lot tougher.
hell of a lot tougher than Peter Forsberg. Well, Peter Forsberg's pretty tough too, though.
Not like that.
Not like that, but it's hard to say that he's a hell of a lot tougher than Peter Forsberg.
Oh no, he was a hell of a lot tougher. I could say it.
Yeah, okay, you can definitely say it.
Yeah, ask Lou Fontinato. Let me just because I saw a couple pictures of Gordie Howe today because today is the 93rd birthday of Johnny Bauer, which is just amazing that Johnny Bauer.
Amazing. I love Johnny Bauer.
And I've met him only once. Said hello to him and in passing. The guy. Like I said, he's 93 and he's one of the friendliest guys. I've been told by a number of people he's just a friendly, sweet guy. And there was a picture. I think it was from the Winter Classic at the Big House. They had Gordie and Johnny Bauer skating on the ice at that time, which was great. Which was a great picture.
Yeah, I have a copy of the 1950 Stanley Cup. It's an abridged version, but one time I'll bring it over. You can watch it, and then you'll see Gordie Howe in his prime.
Yeah, I never really had. I don't think I've ever really seen that. So that would be cool. That would be very cool. So the last night
cool for me because the Rangers lost, but it's okay.
Yeah, let's get to a rumor first before we get into the last night and the standings, because I was this morning, my phone just sort of lighting up, and it's funny sometimes the way rumors come around because I have a certain group of GMs and assistant GMs and people who work for teams, presidents, vice presidents of teams, and stuff like that. They call me when they wonder if I'm hearing the same thing they're hearing, kind of thing. Like I'll get like a call like, "Did you hear this?" And I'm like, "No, you're the first person." But this morning, I got one of those calls, and that the Rangers and the Sabres were working on something major, and then I get a couple more calls, and then suddenly, this stuff spreads. Now the one thing you can always say about rumors is they are rumors, right? They spread. Mm-hmm. One person says it to other people, and it becomes the word on the street, so to speak. Pretty quickly, it can go through, especially in this day and age of texting, and and emailing. But emailing is like a lot of GMs are still do a lot via email. That's their thing. So. So this Rangers thing came up, and of course, the first thing that I thought of, and the one source I talked to said was that he heard the Rangers were going hard after Evander Kane, which I was a little bit surprised at, Russ. I didn't know if that makes any sense to you.
It doesn't make sense now. Years ago, Glenn Sader wanted him, so you never know if that's sort of left over from that. But if that trade were going to happen, the only defenseman the Rangers would give him is Brendan Smith because he's the only one that doesn't fit in the current lineup. They don't have any depth at defense. They just don't. Yeah,
they definitely don't. And that's the defense is what Buffalo is looking for.
Yeah, so Brendan Smith would have to be the guy. Now, if that's somebody that Botterill covets, he's already got cost certainty, then I could see the deal happening because right now Smith hasn't played, I think, 4 games now for the Rangers while they've been on this winning streak. So – to me, that would be the way it makes sense.
Yeah, and if Jason Botterill covets Brendan Smith, then I question his sanity because I thought, and I told Russ this, and I told you guys when we were talking about him as a potential signing for a number of teams, and one of the better defensemen in this free agent class. If you spent $4 million on Brendan Smith, you were wasting your money. And the Rangers, after a decent performance in the playoffs last year, they signed, I think it was 4.3 for 4 years, and already Vigneault is scratching them in favor of Nick Holden and Steven Kampfer. So if that's the case, they're looking for an escape hatch for Brendan Smith, and the Sabres have enough problems in terms of dead money with players on contracts like Matt Molson and a couple others. So I can't see it being Brendan Smith. And I don't see another, they're not going to give up Brady Shea for Evander Kane. So
they can't afford to do that. But, look, Smith's not a terrible player. He's just not fitting in there. And so is he better than some other defensemen on Buffalo? Yeah, he is. He is.
And it depends what else could be involved. It could be
It'll be something else.
He's better.
Could be another prospect.
He's better than Zach Bogosian because Zach Bogosian's never on the ice.
Right, and that's the thing. They would definitely get something else out of the Rangers, some sort of prospect, and whoever that might be. They're not going to give anybody. I can tell you they're not going to give up Buchnevich at this point, even though he had gone up and down from the first line to the fourth line, back to the now he's on. We talked about it yesterday. He's been on the first line, but they're not going to give him up. I don't think Buffalo would want Desharnais. So as far as like prospects, Hedel, they're not going to get Hedel. There's no way the Rangers are going to trade him. Could they trade Ryan Gropp? Like he's a 6'2" forward that definitely has good hands, and they've been grooming to become a power forward type. Yeah, maybe Ryan Gropp is the other guy in that deal.
Well, Russ, I mean, based on the recent package for Duchesne, I mean, because basically the stuff with the Vander Kane around Buffalo started popping up as soon as the Duchesne Turris three-way deal happened, because he might be now the best potential rental player out there. Botterill's going to be expecting to get a package not equal to Duchesne, but relatively close, which means a number one and probably a top prospect. I don't see the Rangers giving up a number one.
They're not giving up one.
Yeah, with the way they're playing right now, so they're not going to give up a potential top 10 pick, and I can't see them giving up Cheadle or Anderson or any of the top prospects. So
no, those two guys they won't. That's what I'm saying. Gropp is like the next guy. They would give him up. You would have to give him.
I honestly think that if there's a New York team that trades for Vander Kane, it's the Islanders and not the Rangers, because they're still looking for that number one winger to put with Tavares, and even if it's in a rent, and they have so many young prospects that they could maybe give up a Beauvillier or a Ho-Sang, who they've sent to the minors, to bring in a rental like Kane.
Yeah, they could give him Beauvillier, they can give him Mayfield, and they can give him a pick, and that's that's a pretty good package, because you're getting two guys you can put out there right now and a draft pick. I think you can get something better out of the Islanders for sure.
Yeah, I mean, I don't think Ho-Sang is going to be traded, though. I really don't think.
No, but look, Ho-Sang's not even up with the big club, but I don't think he's going to be traded either.
Yeah, I know that he's not up, but they really have high hopes for that guy, though. That's for sure. So also looking a little bit last night at the standings and looking at the scores. Oh, before another really quick. Oh, one other thing to look for, and this is just something I just got right before I came on, so I have to look into it more. I'll write about it if I get more into it. But the Sabres have a big interest in Cam Atkinson, who is going to be a UFA next year. We don't know what the Atkinson situation is really. The Blue Jackets have been pretty coy about it as to whether or not maybe he's kind of pulling a little bit of a Kyle Torres to the point where he wants to play someplace else. It's possible. If that's the case, is Evander Kane the kind of guy that they bring in there?
I don't think he'll work with Tortorella.
Yeah,
it doesn't seem like it would make a lot of sense with Tortorella for sure.
And I don't think it's a Kyle Torres situation in that respect. I think it's more of a situation like Matt Bolesky a couple years ago, where he has one good year. And I'm not saying Atkinson's not a good player, because he is a good player. But he scored, I think, 34 goals. And now he's probably expecting to get $5.5 million on a new contract. And with all the players that they have to sign in the next couple of years.
And they just signed Anderson.
Right. So, yeah. So I don't know if they're gonna be willing to spend that kind of money. So that's probably why there would be some interest in Atkinson. But I think he's hurt right now. I think he's injured right now.
Yes. I will say this: there is from talking to a few people today who talked about this deal, they said that when discussing it, have you heard of Evander Kane's name come up or something like that? They all said that Buffalo was asking for a really crazy amount for Evander Kane. That it was something like one person said that they would want McDonough for Evander Kane. Like that,
they would get hung up on. Like, it doesn't matter.
Yeah, I mean, obviously not going to happen, but so it makes it almost seem like that there is no possible route to move Evander Kane. And it's fascinating because Evander Kane has been somebody that and this is what I mean about, we talk about this so many times, like a player who's struggling, who they try to trade, who they would trade for anything basically a little while ago, suddenly has a good year last year, has another good year this year, and you would think, we sit there and we say, oh, you want to play him because that'll increase his trade value. His trade value increases, and now they increase what they want to the point where they can't make a trade. So what's the point of any of that? It's a complete. It's like if you're trying to increase his trade value, you want to increase his trade value to a point where you can actually make a deal with it.
Hey, look, I'm sure Evander Kane will extend his deal with Buffalo in a heartbeat if they wanted to do it.
No,
you don't think Kane would do it, Mike? Of course.
I don't think Kane would do it. I don't think the Sabres would do it. I think
Kane would do it to play with Eichel. I disagree with you.
No, I don't think I don't think Kane. I honestly think that Kane does not want to be in Buffalo. This is only based on, it's not based on anything he said. I mean, this is just based on a feeling. But Buffalo is a small town. He's always been a guy who's, there's been rumors about him wanting to go back to Vancouver, which is home, or playing in big markets. I don't think he he got traded from Winnipeg to Buffalo, and Buffalo compared to Winnipeg is like comparing, St. Catharines to Buffalo, or St. Catharines to New York City. But
here's the thing, though. I think Kane would probably also realize that on the free agent market, he's not going to gain. He's not going to get what he thinks he's going to get. He's really not.
No, but he's not. But he's not. The Sabres are not going to pay him what. The Sabres are not going to pay him what Oposo is making, which is $6 million. He might get that someplace else.
No, but they probably give him like $5.5 million for like 4 or 5 years. I think on the open market, I think the most Kane gets is like 3 years at $6 million per. I don't think teams are going to go in deep with him at all.
Well, he's going to ask for that.
I agree with you, but $6 million a year is going to be where he's going to land. He's going to land 6 or above. But 2 or 3 years, I could see that could be an option, depending on how long it takes him to get signed. The other team that I heard tied to Vander Kane was the Golden Knights in Las Vegas, and
sure. That makes sense.
Who would think for a second, that the Knights could actually be buyers? I mean, it's a crazy thing about it's a buyer in terms of the fact they see this guy as a potential, scorer who can go out there and play.
I mean, why don't the Raiders just wait a year and sign him?
well, Russ, we know that he likes Vegas because he can go there and he can get that couple handfuls of money, spread them out into big fans, and like he did during the lockout. I mean, I'm sure he'd love to go to Vegas.
Got a little overblown at this point.
No, it definitely wasn't. I mean, but anyway, one thing, and this is not like big rumor, big news, and I'm just reporting what somebody else reported. Pierre LeBrun reported yesterday. There's a little thing going on with the Leafs right now. The name of Josh Levo has been basically on the roster for like the last year and a half. A guy who's been sort of kept prisoner. He's too good to try to send through to the AHL because he'd get claimed, but not good enough apparently for Mike Babcock to start him all the time. He's been sitting as the healthy scratch for most of the last year and a half. He's played like 13 games. He's one of these guys that if he doesn't play a certain amount of games by the end of the year, he becomes a Group 6 unrestricted free agent. So he could get moved fairly soon. And they have another situation with Nikita Soshnikov, one of the guy they signed a couple of years ago out of the KHL. If he isn't called up by November 15th, which is next Tuesday, he has the option of going back to the KHL. So it sort of forces the Leafs' hand to call him up. Otherwise, they could lose him, and who knows if they ever get him back. So this might force Lamoriello to make some sort of move.
Yeah, no.
I could see Levo going. I could see Detroit maybe wanting a guy like that because they definitely could use even a little bit more in their lineup. Or I could see the Vegas Golden Knights going for a guy like Levo because, again, a guy with a little bit of age on him, they have a million defensemen. I'm sure they could give somebody to the Leafs, even if it's just a depth defenseman, and they probably take it.
Yeah. No, also in Leafs news. Go ahead, Mike.
I said I could see Edmonton being interested in him because Edmonton apparently is interested in any winger who can score.
Yeah. Now, Austin Matthews is out tonight. Upper body injury, day to day. This is going to be the first game he's missed since he's been a Maple Leaf, correct? Correct.
98 consecutive regular season games, first game he's missed, and I think this is just them being cautious. They have a back-to-back home and home with Boston Friday and Saturday. Those are division games. They mean something. It doesn't sound like it's anything serious. Babcock said day-to-day. It sounds like it could be a hand injury or just something, just something nagging. He played pretty well against Vegas on Monday, but I think they just want to be careful. And they have 4 days off after the back-to-back with Boston.
Yeah, I was kind of surprised they didn't actually hold him out on Monday against Vegas. That's what I would have done. I mean, they were already hearing stuff about this, but obviously he's the kind of guy who's, if he's healthy, he's going to play, right? So that's what happened. But yeah,
but I'll tell you, they needed him against Vegas because Vegas is just they have a motor that doesn't stop, and they had a 3-1 lead and blew it, and they won in a shootout. But if they didn't have Matthews in the lineup, they wouldn't have won the game.
I will tell you this: teams are being very cautious this time of year because, Nolan Patrick has not come back yet. Marc-Andre Fleury has not come back yet.
Yeah. Well, which is incredible. It really is. With the Golden Knights doing what they're doing with the third and fourth string goalies.
The other injury that's going to have ripple effects, and I'm sure that you're going to be keeping an eye out on this is Anaheim with the Getzlaf injury. Yep. He had surgery yesterday to repair a cheekbone. He's going to be out for up to 2 months, and they essentially. The Leafs gave them Eric Fehr to play in the AHL because they had to call up a couple players to fill in for Getzlaf, and they didn't want to pull guys out of the ECHL apparently, so they were shorthanded in their minor leagues, so much so that they needed Eric Fehr. So I believe it was Bob McKenzie or Drager reported that they're on the lookout for a left winger or a center, and they would probably doing that even before because Patrick Eaves has been out for a while. So Anaheim, right now they're 500, and it's a miracle that they're 500. But
I would say in 6 weeks I could see Getzlaf coming back with a cage, though. I could.
Yeah, but the thing is, Russ, they have so many defensemen right now that if they need to replace, right now Kessler is out and Getzlaf is out and Eaves is out and Fowler is out, so they're out without 3 or 4 really impact players. So I could see Bob Murray making some kind of move.
Yeah, no, I could see him too. The game I watched a little bit of last night, which I thought was a good one, was Nashville and Columbus. It's funny. This is an old. These guys were rivals in the Central Division way back when. But yeah, I thought it was impressive. Although Ryan Johansson still cannot score. He's struggling, which is kind of crazy. I mean, that part of everything here, and now the pressure is going to be on Johansson because you're adding another person into the mix there. You're adding another center, because everyone's writing everyone's coming in and saying right off the bat, that Torres is a second line center. Well, Johansson's got to score goals. This is getting ridiculous. I thought last night for sure he was going to score. Like if you could put money on something, I would have put money on him scoring against Columbus last night.
Yeah, but don't you think that the deal takes actually a little pressure off of Johansson because now they've got Bonino as a number 3. They have Bonino as a number 3. They have Turris as a number 2. Teams are not going to be able to maybe not be able to put their best checker against Johansson. It may free him up to score more.
I guess, but you would like to think a guy like Johansson is competitive enough that would put the pressure on him. Like if he's feeling like, to me, that's just kind of nuts. It really is kind of nuts when you think about it. When Scotty Hartnell's got more points and goals than Ryan Johansson, he's got the same amount of points. Johansson's got 7 assists, and the bigger thing to me is the fact that the guy's a -2. Right now, on the Predators. That's nuts in and of itself.
Let's just say this. We know Johansson. There's a lot of expectation there because he's being paid $8 million a year, but it is still pretty early in the season. It's like right now with Calgary, Sam Bennett's got no goals and no assists. I don't think Calgary is ready to walk away from Sam Bennett because he had a slow start. Johansson is a quality center. He may not be worth $8 million, but I think, right now, I think Nashville would be content with him starting to show up around American Thanksgiving, having a good second half of the season, because this team is on a path to try to get back to the Stanley Cup final again. And with the recent trade that they made, I think they have a good chance.
How about the oddity, though, of the 2 guys who got knocked out last year for the Predators during that big Stanley Cup run? Being the 2 guys that I thought we all thought would affect them the most. Not maybe not getting the confidence or something about it because Johansson and Fiala have exactly 0 goals between the 2 of them, which is nuts. These are 2 players who were playing very well for them when they got to the playoffs last year. Were playing well in the first little bit of the playoffs. And then both right now have no points.
I just think it's a cold streak. I saw Fiala play not that long ago, and he looked good in the game. He's just not getting goals. It happens.
Yeah. I think it's impressive. What you're seeing is, you're seeing the Predators do what they usually do, which is spread the scoring around.
Mm-hmm.
Arvidsson's been really big. He's come up really strong for them. But and Pekka Rinne has been unbelievable for the Predators. And
He's been great.
It has gone unnoticed that Pekka Rinne's 7-2, 2.08 goals against average, and what is it, like a .934 save percentage? That you definitely pointed out that Saros is nowhere near that.
He's an 817.
855 now, but yeah.
855 now, okay.
Of course, Russ, all I had to do was trade Pekka Rinne in my fantasy hockey league, and of course he starts playing well.
Yeah.
Yeah, right. He's been something. I mean, he really has. He's really been impressive. The other game that I watched a little bit last night as well that I thought was also impressive was the Islanders Edmonton game.
I did watch that one too. Some of it, third period on.
Yeah, I mean, the overtime was really great in that one.
Well, it was great if you're an Edmonton fan. Here's the part I didn't get.
Yep.
Why did the Islanders put Barzal in that position to put him out on the ice with Tavares and Leddy when you knew you're going up against Draisaitl and McDavid? Barzal's not known for great defense. I get that you want your speed guys, but when you're facing two guys like that, you do have to sort of put somebody who could play a two-way game, because otherwise they're going to do what they did. And they just, you know what? I don't want to say they destroyed them, but you got to admit, that was pretty close to destroying them in overtime.
Yeah, I agree. That was. It felt like one of those games that was so much more of the overtime felt like the Oilers were like, we have to win. The Oilers were up against it. You could tell it was just one of those situations where the Islanders have played really well. They got a point out of the game, and even though it's on the island, it was such a more important game for the Oilers that just you could sense that when they got to overtime.
Well, here's something I would like to see Todd McClellan and the Oilers do: generate offense without Draisaitl and McDavid playing together. Because honestly, they're not going to be successful if that's the only combo that they have. They need to generate more offense, diversify their offense, have Draisaitl be the number 2 center, have McDavid be the number 1. If they put them together and put all your eggs in one basket, a team shuts them down, which is easier said than done. But if a team shuts them down, they're dead meat. So I really think that that's a problem right now, and they probably need just as much as the Islanders need a winger for Tavares. It's starting to look like the Oilers need a winger for McDavid.
Yeah, both teams were playing tight to the vest. I mean, there were some great shots. Like Pulock had a great shot against Talbot in the third, and Talbot made a nice save. But Eck, you got to admit, it looked like the Islanders would let that team that just were willing to go to overtime. Like, hey, we get a point, and then we'll just see what happens. That's
what I really felt like. They were hanging on, and they got the point, and they felt kind of relieved to get the point. And
but it's just like you can't always play that way.
Yeah. I mean, unfortunately, in NHL, you sort of can. I mean,
I know you really sort of can. It's true.
It's crazy. I mean, and teams do. I mean, teams do all the time.
But it doesn't help you postseason, obviously. That's the part I always get to.
It also doesn't help you against teams from the other conference. Like, to me, that's where the big thing is when you play teams from the other conference, you need to go for it in overtime. You need to just go all out because there's no point. It doesn't hurt you if you lose that game in overtime to that team in another conference, but you can gain so much more by winning. And they really did not go for it in overtime. At least they didn't.
They did have one chance to go for it in overtime. That was it. But
I'll tell you, because I saw my first shootout of the year on Monday between Vegas and Toronto. They went for it in the 5-minute OT, 3-on-3, so much so that Freddie Anderson almost put it on tape for one of the Vegas players and almost put it into the empty net. But again, I love the 3-on-3, and then you get to the absolutely dreadful, boring shootout. It's just it's got to go. It is so bad.
Like, I don't know why we can't play 10 minutes of 3-on-3 because I think that would just
be better. But then I think it would be more of a chess match again. I think the one thing you pointed out, Eck, which is the one thing I've noticed, is the 3-on-3 is better when teams out of conference are playing each other. When the teams in conference are playing each other, it gets really tight really quick.
It does. And because those points, I mean, we're talking about teams that are all 1 point away from each other at the end of the year. So every one of those points matters so much more. I think I wonder how much it would change if you took away the point for an overtime loss. Like, I've always thought that. I think it would change it a lot. Like, to me, that would be a totally different scenario because then going for it would people get more cautious? I don't even know.
Yes, I think they definitely would get more cautious. If you only got a point for the shootout loss, I think they would sit behind the goal line for 5 minutes if they could. I think they would preserve that 1 point. I think the 3-on-3 OT would be dreadful.
Yeah, it's possible. The Sabres with a big win against the Capitals team that's sort of all over the map this year, up and down.
Grubauer's winless.
Yeah, which is strange. I mean, you really need to get back. Your backup goalie has to do well for you in the NHL right now. You can't go. And he was a backup that a lot of people thought was going to.
I thought he was a pretty good goalie. I did.
Yeah, that Vegas was going to take. I mean, I thought Vegas would go after him too. I really was kind of surprised they didn't.
I really think that the loss of depth that the Capitals had has really hurt them. I mean, they still have Backstrom and Ovechkin and Kuznetsov. They still they re-signed Oshie. Their defense is half as strong as it was last year. I don't think some of the kids that they've called up, Christian Juice or Madison Bowie, really haven't filled in for the guys that they've lost so far. And their third and fourth lines are nowhere as impactful as they were. So I think they were hurt. They went for it, they didn't get it, and now they're a shadow of their former self.
Well, Backstrom hasn't scored it. Hasn't had a point in 7 games, which is the longest of his career.
Yeah, I think they'll figure it out. The same way I think the Rangers figured it out. I think the Capitals will figure it out too.
Yeah. And then I did watch a little bit of the Canadiens Knights, and I was impressed by that. I mean, the Knights coming off of a really tough game in Toronto. Montreal is sitting there just waiting for them. They still gave Montreal all they could handle. This has been a very almost ungodly long road trip for the Vegas Knights. I mean, they had a crazy long homestand in the beginning of the year, and then now they've had this crazy road trip. I think that's playing into them right now. I can really see.
And they were forced to play Maxim Lagacé 2 games in a row, which is basically unheard of anymore, because they didn't want to put a 19-year-old WHL goaltender in there against the Habs in Montreal. Right. So, but look at it this way: Montreal has won 3 games in a row, 2 of them with Charlie Lindgren, their AHL goaltender, starting. So they've alleviated a little bit of the pressure, but they lose Drouin last night. They lose Andrew Shaw. Both of them are hurt. Carey Price is just starting to come back from what supposedly is a knee injury, but it's not anything related to the previous knee injury. I mean, they're not out of the woods yet. And if Drouin is out for any length of time, that's your number 1 center. And they don't have a lot of depth up the middle.
I'll say this. Carey Price has 2 knees. He's running out of good knees.
Yeah. I mean, I thought the really interesting stat I heard about Lindgren was that the fact that he was a Minnesota Wild season ticket holder from the first game that they started in 2000 until he left for junior. He was part of his family had season tickets to the Minnesota Wild.
That's great.
Pretty cool.
No, that's cool. I think Montreal, they're gaining some confidence while they've lost some players, but I would start Lindgren again and just let Price really get himself together, because I think it was also partially mental for him. He may have had, this knee thing, but it was also mental for him.
But it's crazy now what we're hearing, like everything. Okay, what about his no movement clauses and all this stuff, and his wife saying that they wanted to play on the West Coast before they careers. All this stuff is just kind of nuts.
I don't think anything's going to happen for a while.
It feels like this is Montreal. That this is Montreal, and that's what it feels like to me.
Yeah.
Yeah, I think this is wishful thinking from some insiders out there, where all I know is in the last 48 hours, I've heard on television Carey Price trade possibilities, Mitch Marner trade possibilities, Max Pacioretty trade possibilities. I think all of them are bunk. But right now we're starting to get into that trade season where things, American Thanksgiving, where things start to open up. And anything is possible, but I'd be dumbfounded if Carey Price is traded in, say, the next 2 or 3 years while he's still in his prime.
Yeah.
I don't think that the Maple Leafs are trading Mitch Marner anytime soon, even if he is having a sophomore slump. And Pacioretty is realistic, but it would have to, that would basically cue a Montreal rebuild, which I don't think Montreal is ever going to rebuild. They're one of those teams.
Go ahead, Mike. Sorry. I was going to say.
Go ahead, Russ.
I was just gonna say American Thanksgiving. That to me, that thought's dead now because like the Arizona Coyotes have proven that American Thanksgiving doesn't mean anything. They're done. They're already a lottery team. Like they have no chance of making the playoffs, and it's not even American Thanksgiving. Eck, if you want to fight that one, go ahead.
I will fight that one. They've been playing really well lately.
Yeah, so they got 1 win instead of 2. Come on, Eck.
It's not the win, it's the fact that they've been playing well. I mean, they've been in games.
They're 2-13-2.
Yeah, the season is over with in Arizona right now. And
I'm going to sit there and tell you that the Vegas Knights are a playoff team because they are. I mean,
right now, technically they are, but right now I'm telling you.
Neither of you guys think they're going to be a playoff team, right?
No, listen. If you're telling me Arizona's going to put together 10 wins, which is what they're going to have to do to get back into it, go ahead and tell me.
No, I mean, I'm not disagreeing with you, but I'm just saying that it is really too early to do it. I mean, it's like, the unfortunate thing for them is they played more games than everybody else too, which is really the worst part of it.
Well, let me just say this. I mean, based on the fact, okay, they're 11 games under 500. They're not going to climb back into the playoff race. And John Chaika better look at his roster and see that he's got 2 defensemen that are very valuable that have 1.5 or 1 3/4 years left in their contract, and Oliver Ekman-Larsson and Yarmulson. If he doesn't legitimately search out possible trades at the deadline or this summer, then he should be fired because those guys, I don't believe, are going to re-sign in Arizona. Why would you? All this team does is lose.
Yeah, no, Jarmoson's definitely going to be moved. I mean, I've talked to you about that already. That's already pretty widely. I mean, I think, Buffalo's a team that might go for him depending on what happens, depending on where they are in the playoff race. I mean, Buffalo right now is very much in the playoff race. So they have a shot. I mean, it depends where they are, I guess, at the point when it gets to it, when it gets down to it. But yeah, they're going to have some moves. I mean, right now the real thing that's kind of disappointing to them is that there's a goal differential of -26 for the Arizona Coyotes at 17 games in. So that's like you're looking at way over a -100 there if they continue at that pace, which is something that I don't think any team's ever done, right? We came close last year. I think a team was.
We did get close last year.
But and I'm always a big fan of that plus minus. But the nutso thing about this is that the Penguins, who are first in the Metropolitan Division, are still a -14 in goal differential, which is now granted they had the 1 game, against
and that skews it.
Blackhawks, which was like a 10, but still, even after that, they're in first.
If you take away Niemi, their goal differential's fine.
I mean, maybe that's it, but they're.
I mean, think about it. That is it.
Yeah, I mean, I've never remember a team this late in the season, even at this point, even in November, being first in the division, and having a minus goal differential. That is craziness. I mean, this is where you can see usually. I look at goal differential a lot. Like you can see this is where Tampa's gonna, they're just flying. I mean, they're 17 plus right now. So
here's another thing because I've been focusing on Carolina a bit lately, and they're dead last in the Metro. Now, Darling played the way Darling should play last night and the last couple of games. So if Scott Darling plays like that and they get a little bit of scoring, they'll be fine. Now they have Roland McEwen in the mix, who is a really good offensive defenseman that they picked up in the trade from the Kings for Andre Sekera, which, again, they got Sekera. They traded for Sekera. They got a first and McEwen. So that was a steal. And that really could have helped Dean Lombardi lose his job too.
Yeah.
Who was the first, Russ? Do you know?
It's a conditional first, so I don't know where.
Oh, okay.
I don't know. I haven't had a chance to really research that.
But Carolina and Russ said it. They're scoring. I've been saying since the beginning of the year that
Sebastian Aho. There's your problem. I mean, he's no goals. I mean, Sebastian Aho should not have. I mean, I know he's a playmaker, but he should not be sitting there with no goal.
No.
Yeah, but they added Kruger. They added Justin Williams, but they really needed to add a big time scorer to take a little bit of the heat off of Darling, because Darling's stepping into a number 1 situation, and I don't know whether he's a good fit for that. But now with McEwen, with Jake Bean, with Hayden Fleury, and then the 5 guys that they have in the NHL right now, you need to, Ron Francis needs to make that trade where he trades like one of his defensemen and gets himself a big time score. If he does that, I think they make the playoffs.
I think he'll do it at some point. I think he's just getting these guys a lot of playing time and then sort of figuring out who he can deal. Because, again, we sort of think that Hannafin is going to go the way of Jacob Trouba with them. And if they know that, then they could only trade one defenseman. You know what I mean? Like, because at some point they'll be trading Trouba, Hannafin down the road.
Yeah,
Right.
you would think so.
Which would make more sense to trade Hannafin, because then you probably could get that young big scorer. I mean,
Yeah.
Instead of going the bridge route and then basically doing what Trouba is doing, which is biding his time until he can go UFA.
Yeah. I had something. I just lost my train of thought. Oh, crap. So the Wild tonight's in Toronto. It's where Mike will be.
They're hurting lately. They're not playing well lately. They're missing Zach Parise big time.
Oh yeah, they are. And the Leafs haven't played well lately either. So this will be someone's got to break through on this one. The Bruins and the Rangers is another good one tonight, which is, to me, when I look at the Bruins Rangers, the Bruins are better than they should be based on all the injuries they have. They really are hurt.
Are they touting this as a rivalry? Because it's really not.
Yeah, they always tout this rivalry. I mean, that's why we have the Winter Classic.
But it's not. This hasn't been a rivalry since, the 70s.
And I mean, I think I would even go further to say, like, the Bruins Blackhawks, which is going to be the Winter Classic next year, is even less of a rivalry, even though they played in the Stanley Cup against each other.
Yeah. Here, NHL. Here's the clue. There are other teams other than the original six and the teams in the Northeast.
I mean, they're going for regional ratings. Like, we get that, but they should mix it up a little. Here's the weird thing. Before we highlight that game, Mac, the Winter Classic game at Notre Dame.
Yeah,
I get that Chicago's the home team, but it's 174 miles away. It's not like it's around the corner.
Yeah, but those people who live there are Blackhawks fans. That's the thing. So
yeah, but that's like, that's like saying there's Flyers fans in northern Jersey. Sure, there are, but
well, no, it's different because you're talking about bigger ranges there. You're talking about bigger ranges between countries. There's no other. That's the closest team to them. By a lot. I mean,
yeah, and Russ.
I agree.
Russ and I drove to Chicago for the draft, and we passed by South Bend.
Yeah.
It's not like driving to Toronto or driving to Rochester. This is and it's about $20 worth of tolls too. So
But here's the thing: it's 80,000 seats. That's why they're doing it.
Yeah. I mean, I'm with you on the Winter Classic matchups. I think I've always felt that the NHL needs to think the Winter Classic differently, and I think the cool thing to do would actually be to bring. I was thinking about this the other night, to bring the two teams that went to the Stanley Cup Finals into the Winter Classic the following year.
That's not a bad idea. I like that.
That's an automatic thing. Whoever gets the Stanley Cup Finals, you guys are the Winter Classic the next year, and just go with it. And let that.
But the problem is that logistically that's a nightmare for the league, because they won't know about that game until mid-June, and the game is only 6 months later. So they wouldn't know the venue, they wouldn't know anything else.
Yeah,
maybe
it's not that hard. There's not that many other things happening at this time of year in big outdoor stadiums. Like January 1st, unless you're a college football bowl or your team's in the playoffs in football. There's not that much going on then.
I do have a little bit of breaking news if you want it.
Sure, of course.
Mike will want it. So it looks like, Mike, that Ska owns the rights for Shoshnikov. They seem to own the rights for everybody, but the representatives for Shoshnikov are saying they're looking at different options. So I don't know what that exactly means, but that's sort
of. There's out there that Anaheim is now going after him pretty good. I heard Anaheim today mention, and with Getzlaf, that could be somebody that they're willing to bring in.
Well, I mean, first of all, the Leafs are more than likely going to call him up before the 15th, just to make sure that the escape clause doesn't come into, so they can do that by sending Freddie Gauthier down to the AHL, which is not a problem. But if right now they don't have room for him, and this is the thing, I was telling Russ this before. A guy like Jeremy Bracco, who won a World Junior with Team USA, won the Memorial Cup with Windsor. He's played 4 games for the Toronto Marlies. They've loaned out one of their goaltenders to help cover the Vegas situation in the AHL. They just loaned Eric Fair to Anaheim. So they've got so many extra bodies right now that they really don't know what to do with them. And so that's the recipe for a potential trade. So maybe, but all I can say is I don't think Soshnikov is getting you the type of defenseman that the Maple Leafs need from Anaheim. It's probably going to be a much bigger deal if it's.
Here's the other slow up. The other slow up is the KHL's on break right now, so they're not really focusing a lot on like business.
Yeah, they're in their break.
Yeah, and they're probably not. We didn't talk that much about it, but they're probably not going to the Olympics, according to the reports that came out last week. Which
that's crazy if they don't.
Yeah, yes.
Yeah, I'm not so sure about that. That seems like there's something going on negotiation-wise there, but
it's a leverage play act. That basically the Russians are trying to prevent the IOC from kicking out their entire team because of Maldonian and all these other things, and they're trying to leverage that against. The ratings will crater if the KHL players won't.
The KHL players don't show, the ratings will drop.
Yeah, that's good. And then the final game for tonight, by the way, is Tampa and San Jose, which I think actually will be a good game because the Sharks have played a lot better lately. They are not, I think we may have written them off a little too quickly, although they started off the year looking like we were right. But lately they really have.
They picked it up, but we got to wait and see. There's ebbs and flows in the season, especially with their age. Like we got to see what they look like in February, I think.
Right. No, I agree. And that's another situation where Brett Burns is not scoring. So it's just all these players, who could really make a difference if just a little bit. I mean, the difference. I mean, Brett Burns is a guy who many considered, for the Norris Trophy a couple of years back, and now suddenly he's not doesn't have any goals at all. That's kind of crazy. So if a little bit of help from him, a little bit of help from him, and the Sharks are better than 8-5. So this seems. That's why you're going to see. I think you're going to see a lot from him as well. I think eventually he will pick it up. I do. I think that's going to change. I think Brett Burns has to pick it up. But right now, it's weird how a guy like that could fall out and get so cold so quickly.
Yeah, it's just we are seeing a lot of that, and I think it's game planning. I think it's video. I think teams. Again, I always try and tell people we talk about it and get excited when we see extra offense. But at the end of the day, this is still a defensive league. And it shows up more and more as the season goes on. But there are some coaches that will just have a game plan like, hey, don't let Burns beat us. And right now it's obviously working.
Yeah, that's it. And finally today, from our buddy Rutherford, who was a writer for the St. Louis Blues, who's a good friend of the show's, there's a report out of Russia today that says the Blues have offered 36-year-old forward Danny Zarapov a contract. If you remember, he's 30. First of all, he is 36, but he's also banned for a doping case in Russia on a substance that's not actually considered illegal in the NHL. I'm not sure what that substance is exactly. I forget, but there is something there.
Wait, say that. Could you say that again? It didn't register for me.
Zarapov, the guy, the KHLer.
Right. He was banned for doping in Russia for I think what was basically some kind of like Sudafed type drug. The Blues, so he can't play right now. He's 36 years old. The Blues have offered a contract to him, according to Rutherford.
Okay.
And I don't know what a 36-year-old Russian can bring, to the team.
Well, considering a 30-year-old one didn't bring much, I don't know.
Yeah, but I know that Zarapov's name had been connected with Pittsburgh for at least a couple months because Malkin was really knows him from Russia and really wanted him, and there was never any consummation of that deal. So he clearly wants to come over to the NHL, and in St. Louis, I mean, they've gotten most of their players back. I mean, they're injured guys.
I mean, has he played with Svoboda? Is that why? I mean.
I don't know. I just know that there was some connection between Malkin and him. I don't know if he's played with Svoboda.
Yeah, I know. And Malkin and him are friends. I understand it as well. But and obviously he's a really experienced player, but has played his whole career over there, so it's hard to really tell what he could bring to the NHL at 36. I mean, you lose a little bit of speed in the NHL, you're in a big problem.
Yeah, but if he can, if he agrees to a 1-year deal, it's worth the risk.
Could be worth the risk. Yeah, I mean, it could just, or it could just, depends on what the kind of deal you're talking about there.
But he's 36. I don't think he's going to come for a 1-year deal. I just don't.
Yeah, I mean, I guess he's just banned out of Russia now for at least the rest of this year. So maybe, or if not longer. So, yeah. So that's all we got for you guys today. Enjoy the games tonight. We'll be back again tomorrow. And remember, without the buzz, it is just hockey. We will talk to you soon.